undoubtedly one of the most tumultuous in the history of LSU football. Coach fired midseason, athletic director parting ways with the university at the end of the week as well. Wilson Alexander covers LSU football for The Advocate. He wrote a story talking with 15 people associated with the LSU football program about the Brian Kelly era. You can read that online at theadvocate.com. Wilson, give us some time here on this Monday. Wilson, thanks for the time.
Thanks for having me, Hunt. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Let's talk about what you were able to uncover last week. Obviously, with Brian Kelly's time in Baton Rouge coming to an end, what were you curious to learn as you started to do some digging?
I guess the cliff notes of it would be that a lot of what we sort of heard, a little chatter behind the scenes over the past few years, really was what a lot of people felt like was going on within the building. That Kelly did not connect well enough with enough of the players. And I want to emphasize enough because there were some players I talked to who thought that they had a solid relationship with Coach Kelly. One who even said he had a close relationship with Coach Kelly, but he acknowledged that may have been because he was a captain. You know, Brian Kelly had those sort of weekly meetings with the leaders of the SWAT team, you know, little pods and all that. And then things were supposed to kind of be disseminated through. And it felt like to a lot of people, he just did not, as one person said, try hard enough to really get through to the full team the way that he should have, and that he was a little bit too detached. You know, Brian Kelly has this CEO style of doing things that has worked for him in the past, but in order for that to be successful, you have to surround yourself with great assistants. And LSU, as we know, was always having some kind of issue on one side of the ball or another, special teams, defense, and then now the offense. And so it never all came together at the right time, and he was not able to correct those things. And eventually he just lost a lot of support, and I think that's because he didn't have the relationships that he probably needed to. At least that's kind of how it was explained to me.
As you kind of had your conversations, I guess the question I would have as a reader and someone who's following the team is this just Brian Kelly's personality or way he does business, or is it a lack of effort in that department? What's your sense on that?
That's tough to know for sure. And I think it's also a matter of probably people's opinion.
Yeah.
When it comes down to that one. Like, there might be some people I talked to who think that he didn't maybe put his full self into it. There was one person who I talked to who didn't make it into the story, but because it was just his one viewpoint on it, was that Kelly started to become a little bit more checked out after the 2023 season. And there was this sense among some people on the staff, like, man, that was their chance. And that but I don't know that that's, you know, that everybody felt that way. That there were other people who, that is kind of just his personality and way of doing things. One person even thought that maybe it was intentional, that he was a little bit detached from the team because he wanted to kind of keep certain things at arm's length. And so part of it is the way he went about it. Part of it may be a little bit of slipping in effort, but that's a matter of, I think, individual opinions, and it's really not just like one general consensus around that.
And being a football coach, you hear stories of, you know, coaches that get there at 5:45 in the morning and don't come home until midnight, and the amount of hours that some put in. And then there have been folks that have talked about Brian Kelly's hours. Were you able to kind of uncover what that was like in terms of his presence in the facility and around the team day to day?
I asked a lot of people the question, was he as absent as his reputation was? And most people sort of said, like, you know, I think he was here a lot. That he was within the building, but he wasn't seen much, or as much as they would have liked to have seen him in the building. As one current staff member told me, my first 4 weeks here, I didn't see him. And that staff member said he might have been here, but sort of sequestered in his office. Like, I just never saw him. They would have liked to have seen him more often sort of throughout the building. Another staff member said that basically Kelly, when he was around, and he was having individual conversations, I actually heard this from multiple people, that he was good to interact with, but it wasn't often enough, that needed to be more regular, that they didn't have regular staff meetings as much as one person who worked at another SEC school had when he was at that SEC school, and that's a very successful SEC program. And so those were some of the things that I gathered in that regard, that there were others, though, that said like they didn't think that he was there nearly enough. Then there were some people who said he was here, he was working hard, he just was kind of detached from people within the building.
Wilson Alexander is our guest, LSU beat reporter for The Advocate. As you've covered this entire run here for Brian Kelly, I mean, what is your your thought on Brian Kelly's time at LSU. And let me ask it this way, because I feel like, for me, as I've talked about Brian Kelly, I feel like he did make an effort to make a lot of different changes and do things differently. He fired defensive staffers and overhauled that. He put a new personnel department in place. He donated of his own money to try to change the way that they approach recruiting with NIL, from the we don't buy players and now going out and getting the number one portal class. Like, I thought he tried to make changes from afar. What's your sense on how he handled his time here in Baton Rouge?
I thought he really tried to make it work, and really I thought he did put a lot of effort into trying to get this program to a place of consistent championship contention. But as I gathered over the past week, like, the way he went about it, just maybe, so many people talked about fit. Brian Kelly didn't fit here over the past 4 years, and some of that felt a little overblown, but I think there is some truth to that he didn't come in and truly embrace the things that can make LSU great. He tried to sort of do things the way he had always done them, his sort of foundational pillars, as he sort of once said. And those, but to a degree, he sort of lost some of the things that can really make LSU great. And like there was one creative person, one former member of the athletic department, who commented on like the past, LSU's branding around what Brian Kelly's football program was going to be. And that was that they had come up with that, but it was something that Brian Kelly kind of wanted them to come up with. And he was like, man, that was way too corporate for what LSU should be. I do think that he tried. It just didn't quite mesh the way that he went about doing things in the program. It just didn't quite work out. And I think that if he had hired better assistants throughout his staff, and maybe at the very beginning of his tenure, maybe if he hadn't gotten rid of some people that he did, or at least replaced them with people who were a little bit maybe operating at a higher level, and LSU was able to have a good offense and a good defense at the same time for once in his tenure, that this probably would have worked out okay, even with all the sort of questions and criticisms of his way of doing things and his sort of personality and detached style.
I saw Hugh Freeze penned a note to the Auburn family and posted that on his social medias. And so I clicked over on Brian Kelly just to kind of see, and it was radio silence. Do you read anything into that at all, or am I just digging?
I'm not really sure what to make of all that. No, I wonder. I just keep wondering when are we going to hear from Brian Kelly? I don't know when it will be. That could also be, there's still negotiations going on with the buyout. Maybe something that has something to do with it. I'm not really sure.
What does your gut tell you about the next month with Frank Wilson at the helm of this football program?
Frank will do everything he can to try to energize these players, kind of galvanize them, sort of pick them up, emotionally. Things over the past month were just the vibes were off, and I think that he's going to do everything he can to try to get them to play free and loose, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, I don't expect them to win the Alabama game. Arkansas's got a great offense, but their defense is terrible, so that, and with that 11:45 a.m. and kickoff in Tiger Stadium, has the potential to be pretty close. I think that Frank will, do everything that he can, that an interim coach should do in this situation, in terms of trying to re-inject passion and energy and that kind of feeling back within the team, and we'll see how it works out.
Wilson, I mean this sincerely. It was great to see your byline back in the newspaper. Welcome back to work. We've been thinking about you, and we'll see you out there, okay?
Appreciate that, Hunt. Thank you.
You bet. That's Wilson Alexander.